Nana, 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 that's my granddaughter Evie. Evie has always babbled. She's got so much to say. And I used to worry about her. But Hamlet's told me that Evie speaks a rhapsody of words. Her brother follows in, my Jasper. Nana, Mummy controls the fridge and Daddy controls the cupboards. Jasper's a little boy. To communicate with Jasper, you always know it's about food. I'm a little bit further along that communication pathway than Evie and Jasper. I've spent a lot of time trying to professionally and personally learn how to communicate clearly with people. And I've always tried to not be like my old school teacher who used to say, please espouse elucidation and don't practice obfuscation. So I try to talk clearly. When Evie and Jasper and I move along the time frame a little, we might go to Shakespeare together. We'll see Hamlet and we'll marvel at the communication that he uses, at the stories that he writes that inspire writers, musicians and lovers the world over. And knowing my Evie, we'll debate whether a Hamlet quote, maybe to thine own self be true, needs to be tattooed on her lower leg or perhaps around her arm. Hamlet is a magic play, but you know it's mostly about death. And in the course of Hamlet, Shakespeare manages to knock off so many of his actors that some productions recycle them as other characters. Death's an interesting thing to think about. In Hamlet, Hamlet's mother says to him, death is a natural process. All that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity. I'm a bit more on the Steve Jobs side. There's nothing so great about death. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to do it. So here we've got a story about death, and here we've got a Hamlet. And I want to try and base some of my thoughts about communication skills and that theme of death and try to roll it all together. I once went to an ethics discussion group, and as part of the evening, some people came in and talked to us about dying with dignity. In Hamlet, you've got lots of examples of pretty excruciating death. His mother probably cops the worst, but his uncle doesn't do too well either. And so I started thinking about my death. And what if my death should be an excruciating one? I needed to communicate to my family what my wishes would be in that event. Now, they all happened to be away that night, but I'm thinking to myself, I have a very poor memory. So I'll get on the computer as soon as I get home and I will email them. It's 11:30 at night. I'm a good communicator. I know that I have to be concise. Dear family, when I get very ill and you find that you have to give me enough medication to stop my pain, but that medication might hasten me along, you've got my permission to do it. I hope you will. Love, Mum. within a really short period of time, I heard from all my family. I communicated very concisely. There was nothing really confusing, but I forgot the context. Lesson number 1. Let's go back to Hamlet. In Hamlet, King Hamlet has a really, really fine way of communicating his wishes after he's dead. He comes back as a ghost, and he basically says to young Hamlet, that bloke there, your uncle, knocked me off, and you're to do the same to him, please. I don't really think that I'm going to be able to do that. I'll try. But I need to find another way to tell my family what it is I want. And the normal way is to do a will. Now here's my problem. In Victoria, it's illegal to do a verbal will or a video will. You have to do a written will. And we've already seen what I did with the email. So I talked to a lot of friends and I thought about what possibilities there were, and then I consulted the professionals. I said, this is what I want to have done. Could you please write me a will? And so it came. Not a rhapsody of words, an avalanche of rhapsody of words. And so I opened this wonderful document and I tried to read it. And do you know, I can't understand any of it. There's no commas in sentences that go over 4 lines. Surely, in a document as important as a will, you have to have punctuation. I know that Gertrude Steiner said if you write a novel, you don't put commas because you feel where they belong. But this is a will. I don't want anyone to feel anything, I just want them to do what it says. This is a huge problem for me. I talk to the lawyers, they won't change the language. I didn't get the audience right. A will is not for my family. A will is for lawyers. So I go back to Shakespeare. Shakespeare quotes in Hamlet that brevity is the soul of wit. Well, you know what? Shakespeare doesn't take notice of himself. Because if you've ever opened a Shakespearean play and tried to read it, you can't understand what it says unless you put in a lot of effort. I think the best way to do a Shakespeare play is to go to the theatre and watch people who've put a lot of effort do the play for me. And so I'm thinking, what can I do with my will? Well, I'll file it with the lawyers. But I'll invite my family round for a roast dinner and I'll say to them, boys, I've done a will. Here it is, but I don't care what it says. This is what I want done, and this is what you will do. And hopefully we'll get the right outcome. And then I get on the computer and I write to the lawyers. Your will is full of words that are lapidarious and full of obfuscation, and I don't particularly like it, but thank you very much. And I hope they feel my pain. Let's cycle back round to Evie and Jasper. When they grow up, I want to communicate with them. What they say as children doesn't really matter, but what they say as teenagers really will. And here I go again, back to Hamlet. Hamlet's friends say, you're living in a palace, this is a wonderful place, you're having a lovely holiday. Hamlet says, I'm in prison, I've been banished. There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And so with Jasper and Evie, I need to live enough in their world to know exactly what they're saying when they say, whatever. That's really sick, Nana, and I hope I will.